Let's start off creating a new document, and with this document I'm going to make it portrait mode. So I'm going to start off with my screen option. I'm going to go into my sort of 1920 by 1080 pixels, but I'm going to then go across here and just flick over to portrait orientation, so it's 1080 wide by 1920 high. Now these sort of things are ideal for anything like Pinterest, where you've got that long, thin look that you're after. I'm going to click on Create File after checking that I'm in RGB mode over there, because I'm doing something for screen this time. So I'm going to draw two little animals. I'm going to do a monkey and a giraffe, and then have some text on there. The text is going to say the fun shop or the fun experience, whatever you want to put in yours. But I'm going to start off by doing the monkey shape, and I'm using mostly squares and circles for this. So certainly with the monkey it'll be mostly circles. Let's start off with an ellipse, and I'm going to draw in my elliptical shape over there, and I'm holding down once again the center option in there, and I can always draw these bigger and then scale them down. It's not a problem. And what I'd like to do is just have a bit of color in here so that I can see what it is that I'm doing. We can change those colors later if you don't like what you see there. So I've got this shape here, and that's going to be the monkey's head. Now I also then want to kind of cut out where the face will be. I'm going to have two versions of this, so I'm going to make a copy of this. Let's try that again with the correct tool. Make a duplicate copy and duplicate that again over there. So what I'm looking at here is just to be able to use these two shapes to cut out from that shape in there. Now I'd better have a fourth shape as well, because I'll need another one for the background. But I'm going to select those three items, and then what I'm going to do is to go along here to the usual space, and I'm going to use the cutting out the front, so minus the front object and convert to path, and that's going to kind of be the monkey's fur. So I've got this over here that'll be the monkey face, and that'll be the fur, and I'm doing the fur in blue. So let's just move that across. Now it's in the wrong place, so if I click on this little icon here, this allows me to just move it above the other shape. Let's take that shape, drop it down onto there. You see they will snap into the right position very quickly. So have a bit of a go, get the face and the fur done, and then we'll come in and we'll put in some ears. Let's do the ears. They're really easy. I'm going to take the elliptical shape, draw one ear, once again holding down the center to get a perfect circle in there. And I'm going to give it some color as well, so let's just pick up the same blue that I had, and I'm going to make a copy of that, and the copy I'm going to scale down, so once again holding down that little button, and I will then use the same color that I had there, orange, for the moment. We'll sort out all our colors later on. So let me pop that in the right position. There's my first ear. I'm going to group it and then duplicate the group. So I've got a second ear there, so my first one will go on that side, and the second one, which I'm going to flip, so let's go across here to the align options and flip it around, is going to go on the other side in there. Once again, we're not worrying too much about being that accurate in here. I'm going to take these two shapes, which I will group together, and I'm going to go up to my layers panel. I'm going to drag that group above the other two groups, so the head is in the front. We can select all of those and get rid of the stroke, so we're just left with the monkey itself. Now we need some eyes in there as well, and that's going to be really simple because that's just going to be circles. So a little circle over there. I'll make mine, well, I'll use black, I think. Duplicate that, and then take the duplicate and pop it in there. Let's have another duplicate in there. We need some sort of nose area here, and then a mouth and a little nose. So I'm going to do something similar to what we've done before. Take the same shape, maybe darken down the color a little bit, and I'm going to draw in an ellipse to go in that area. So that will go in there, but I do want a little mouth at the bottom. So I think what I'll do for the mouth is I'll actually use this shape to make the mouth. I'm going to just copy that shape. Let's just put the original back where it's going to go, somewhere down there. And you see it's not quite in the right position, needs a bit of lining up, but we're going for a more freehand look. Let's take this, make a copy of that, pull the copy up just a little bit, and I can select them both and then go across to my combine shapes option, and I will then minus the front from the back and convert to path down there. There's the mouth. Let's make that red so it's obvious what we've got. Now, of course, with this I could just scale it down a little bit so we just have a little slither, and let's take that and then move it into the right position. And finally we just need a little circular nose, so that's just going to be a little nose like so, and I'll make that a dark brown or black as well. Let's go with black for that. As I said, we'll change all of these colors later on. Now the top of the head looks a bit bare, so I want to have two tufts of hair, but before I get to that, if you'd like to do some ears and eyes and nose and mouth, and then we'll do a bit of tuft for the top of the head. The top of the head, or the tuft of the head, will be really straightforward because I just need a few shapes, a few circles. Honestly, I'm going to take one of these circles over here. It's grouped at the moment, but if I just ungroup it temporarily, so I'll just ungroup that, I can then take this little shape. Let's make a copy of that first, make a copy of it, and take the copy over there, select both of those and regroup them again. So this will be for my tuft of hair. Let's make it a bit bigger. I think so we'll have a slightly bigger tuft. I'm going to copy it. There. I will change the color of the copy so that you can see what I'm going for. So over here, what I'd like to do is to have some sort of little tuft, little round bit like that. I don't want it to look too horn-like. You might have to experiment with the size and say, well, actually, if we go with something maybe a little bit smaller, and then maybe this could be a little bit smaller as well, and then I can move that one up there. You just experiment and see what you get. I'm going to select those two and cut the front from the back. So the usual, going over here to the right hand side, and we're going to minus the front object and convert to path. I want a second one of those, so I'll make a copy of that, pull that down, and this is going to be the tuft of hair over here. We'll select both of those together. Same again, we're going to now make these into one, so combine all and combine all and then convert to path. And I do want to get rid of this bottom section. Fastest way to do that would be to take another shape and just put that other shape on top of this one. Like so. Doesn't have to be exact. We're just getting rid of that shape in there in case it overlaps onto his eyes. And then same again, we'll go in and we'll cut one from the other. So we'll just say minus the front shape from the back, convert to path, and this can then go on the top of his head as a little tuft of hair. If you wish, you can then still select that one and this one, although don't forget you've grouped it with the other shape as well. You might have to ungroup it, and you could then make that into one shape if you wanted. I'm going to take the monkey and just scale it right down. So once again onto my center touch and scale it down and just move it out of the way for a bit. But I'm also going to go to my layers, And in the layers, I'm going to lock that layer down so I can't touch it. I'm going to make a new layer over here. So this is my monkey layer, and if you wish, you can just double click and give it a name. Likewise with the new layer, this is going to be my giraffe. I'll just call that J for speed. And I'm going to go onto my giraffe layer. Now I've locked that layer so I can't put the wrong things onto that layer by mistake. The giraffe, once again, very, very simple shapes. I'm going to start off with an ellipse, and let's just start with a very vivid yellow for now. Actually, let's go with a slightly darker yellow, you won't be able to see it properly. And click and drag, get a perfect circle up over there. So I'm going to do two of these circles, so one over there and one over here. And then I want to join those two circles up with a line or a little rectangle. Now we could do this by going up to the rectangle, making a rectangle, then trying to angle it around correctly to get it into the same direction. Sometimes though, it's just easier to work at a different plane. So for example here, if this was down here where it was lined up perfectly on there, that way when I drew in my rectangular shape, and I can just put the rectangle shape in like so, I know it's perfectly lined up with those, and I'm going to select those and then make them into one shape. One more thing, before I do that, I want another copy of this shape. So let's have another copy. We'll just leave that over there. We're going to make the mouth with that. But I'll select those, go once again up to my combine shaped options, and I'm going to combine all of those into one shape and convert to path. So now I can just angle it around for the giraffe's head. This is going to be the mouth. So what I want to do here is to make another copy of that. So I've got two of them. I'll just change the color of the front one. You don't have to, but I just want you to do that so you can see where I'm going. And I just want to create this little crescent shape. We'll select both of those, and I'm going to crop one from the other. So as always, up to combine shapes, and we'll just say minus front, convert to path. Just move that into the right position, angle it around, and there's the simple little graphical mouth shape in there. I'm going to select them both. You see, I'm not going for accuracy by any stretch of the imagination. I think we'll just go back in here and combine them all into one shape like so. So there's our basic giraffe shape, and the next stage we to put in some horns and some ears and some eyes and nose and whatever you want. But for now, if you'd like to get to that stage and then come back, and we'll do the other details. So back onto this, we'll zoom in a bit to that. And I think I'd like to actually angle it around a little bit more, something like so. So some horns out here and then some ears. The ears will do pretty much the same way that we did those, but keeping them even more simple. So just some circles. So let's do that very quickly. So we'll have an ear over here, and we'll make a copy of that one. Another ear on that side. And then the horns, we'll get them coming up. So once again, let's go in here and just do a horn shape. So that'll be a little elliptical shape like so. And a line down from that. I did say this stuff was going to be really simple, this one. Select both of those, and I could either group them together, or I'm going to go in and unite them together into one shape. So combine all, convert to path. I want two of those there, so we're going to have one there, and we're going to have another one which will angle around over there. Right, it's looking more like an alien actually, but hey, when we've got the neck in, it'll look like a giraffe. So same as always, go in here and just combine the whole lot of them. Combine all, convert to path. The eyes, a nose. Really simple once again. But do have a bit of a go with those, then we'll come back, do the eyes, nose, and the neck. Let's make some eyes and noses. So I'm simply going to use spheres. Over to the sphere, and we'll have a little eye. Over here, I'm going to just fill the eye with black. And we can get rid of the stroke from that as well if we don't need it. We need two of them obviously, so I'm going to make a duplicate copy, and let's zoom in and put those in the right position over there. Now while we've zoomed in like this, sorry, I've made that one a little bit too big for some reason. I'm going to have to make a copy again, so we'll duplicate that one and move the duplicate over, and we can angle them around as well if we need. While we've zoomed right in, you can see we've got some sort of corners over here. If you wish, what you can do is you can select those corners using that direct selection tool and just grab the little circle and pull it out to round them off a bit. So same over here, I can just select these, grab that, and just round that off if you need. I'll do this one just a little bit over there. It depends on your design and how you want to work. So I've got some really wacky looking eyes here. I think I might need to rotate that one a little bit around a bit better. And then in here I want the nostrils, and I'm going to do the same thing again. But this time I'm just going to have a stroke, no fill, and I'll make the stroke a little bit thicker. And let's just scale that down, get into the right size. So we'll have one that's going to go. Now this is where you can get into trouble if you're trying to select something by dragging it by the line. So I like to deselect it and then click and drag it straight away. So there's the first nostril. Make a copy of that, deselect it, grab it, and move the copy into the right position over there. If you need to arrange them a little bit better, just move them around to how you feel they should be. No right or wrong here, these are just animal symbols that we're creating. Now when it comes to the neck is going to go down over here. You could do it with a rectangle, but it's going to be so much simpler if I just use the pen tool. So I'm going to go and get the pen tool over here and really quickly just go click, 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 and click. Like so. Fill that with a color. So let's change that to a yellow fill. And I'm going to then get rid of the stroke as well. So over to the stroke and choose none for my stroke. Of course, we can then still select those two shapes, once you've got it in the right position, of course, and go into your combine shape options and just unite them together as one shape. So I'll just say combine all and convert to path. Now, of course, it's gone in front of the eyes, so we can click on this little icon here and just move it back behind the eyes as well. Now, of course, this is a giraffe, so we need some spots on the giraffe as well. And I'm going to do that using the pencil. So with the pencil tool, I will just draw in a little shape like so. And let's have another one over here. Oh, that's a really weird shape. Let's do one a bit smoother like that. Maybe another shape that kind of comes in there. So that you can see what I'm actually drawing, I will change the color of those to something different. Make sure I'm clicking on the right one. Let's have a look at what's going on here, because this is something that can happen sometimes. You can see I've actually gone into the group with those shapes and grouped them together. Without realizing it, I've been known to hit the group option. So I'll just ungroup them all. And then once again, I can then click on those shapes and just adjust the color to something different. Now, these shapes need to be straight, well, lined up with the neck. So I'm going to select those shapes, and I've made sure, by the way, that I haven't selected the eyes and the nose or the nostrils. And I'm going to go in over here to our usual option, the combine shapes, and I'm going to say divide all, and then I'm going to ungroup. And so what this will have done is it will have cut those out, so I can then delete these bits, which are the extras, over there really quickly, like so. Right, so we've got our two animals. We need to sort out some colours soon as well. This is obviously a children's graphic that we're creating, but we still need a decent colour scheme for that. Now, you might think you've got the wrong video here because all of a sudden we've jumped into the web. So I've gone to a website called Unsplash. This is royalty-free images, and I've done a search for toys because I want to use colours from the toys. And down here, I've just scrolled down until I found something that I like the colour scheme of, and they've got some really nice colours in this particular image. You can pick any image you like for the colours, but I'm going to download that. So let's go and choose this over here, and it asks me if I've got an account. No, I don't have. So let's just try that again with a click on the picture. There we go. You don't have to have an account. And in here, I'll just choose to download it. Now, I honestly only need the very small file size. So I'll go with medium in here because all I'm going to do is use those colors and sample those colors. Let's download that. And you can see it sort of says give thanks to that person. So I'm saying thank you to Max. And then I can go back to Illustrator and I'm going to bring in those colors. So I'm going to go to my place. I'm going to go and find that file in there which I've placed, which should actually appear in my downloads folder over there. And in here I've got that picture somewhere. There it is. And that brings it in. It's pretty large, but I can just scale it down because all I'm interested in is sampling these colors in here. So find yourself an interesting picture and then we'll sample some colors. Now that I've got my picture here, I could go along over to my panel and use this little sample tool, and I can move that across and sample the exact colors that I want. You can see, especially as it's so small, I'm having difficulty picking up the right color that I'd like. So another way that we can actually do this is to actually vectorize the picture first. So on the photograph, let's just get rid of that color panel. If you have a look at the bottom with the photograph, you've got this little icon here, which is a vectorizing icon. And when you click on that, what it will do is it will convert those pixels into vectors. Now, this is a great way of tracing, if you like. It could be called a trace item. And you can see now it's got some options in my properties panel here. So I could go into these options and I can change the number of colors in that vector shape. Now I'm going to take down the number of colors, so I just wanted to look at about 20 of those colors. I don't want to be too limited, but 20 will give me a nice option. And if I zoom in, you'll see how it's all flat vector colors in there. If you don't like the colors, just increase the numbers in there until you find the ones that you want. So it's just a great way of very quickly getting flat color from an image. There we go. I think I like those colors in there, and now my life will be so much easier if I go and sample those colors, because I can just move it onto there and that's a flat color that I'm sampling from. I can then save that color. Once again, I'm going to do the same thing, and I'll just work my way through all of these colors in here, sampling the different colors that I like. I want to get a few colors going in here. Now remember, I locked down the monkey because it was in a different layer, so I might have to just unlock the monkey, and then I can go and sample or change my colors in here. So when it comes to the color scheme, I'm going to be probably using similar blues and pinks in there. Don't forget, with these things, very often you'll find you'll have grouped items together. You might need to either double click them or go into the group over here where you can select pieces individually. So I'm just going to do a few of these in here. So I'm going to go with that sort of greeny color for the monkey. And once again, I will go through the ears in there, just selecting the areas that I want to do. And we'll make it that color there. Same with the top, and then finally into the face as well. And the face is going to be, I'll do it as a pinky color in there. Anyway, I'll finish up those colors. I won't get you to watch the whole process. And then once again, the same thing on your giraffe. Find a color for the giraffe, and I've decided to use the sort of orange color that I've got there, and then some different colors for the spots on the giraffe. And that way we'll have used the colors from that interesting looking photograph. Try it out, get your colors going there. I've created 3 little bits of text over here: the, fun, and shop. They're all just standalone bits of type. And I've found a very bold typeface that I'd like to use for that, because this is obviously all about fun. And what I'm going to do is just put these together. So I think I'm going to have the fun fits really nicely just on top of the word shop in there. And then I can take the, which is not very important, and I'm going to rotate it around. I'm holding my finger on the touch control so it rotates in 45-degree increments. I'm just going to pop that, I think, over there. Maybe we can make this just a little bit bigger as well, maybe that a bit smaller. You can try this out on your own ones and see what you can do. So I think I'm happy with that, just about there. Just get this the word fun sorted out a bit, maybe a fraction bigger than that. So that's going to be my text. Let's select all of those, and I'm going to scale it up to go to the edge in there. Now, the next thing that I'd like to do is I'd like to change some of the type in here, because this P, I'd like the P to be a lot longer, because I'm going to have the giraffe coming out the top. So I want to balance that with a longer P in here. Once again, adding to the fun. I'm going to go and find my Create Outlines option. Now you can see at the moment it's come up and it doesn't show any Create Outline or Create options in there. But it's because I'm in the wrong area and I need to do it in the type. You probably knew that already. I'll go to Outline Text in there. It's now outlined, and I can then use this little tool here, the Direct Selection tool, to select those 2 points, and I can move them down like so. Once again, I'll just hold my Shift key so I can move them absolutely straight down. I do apologize. Sometimes I call that the Shift key because it works like the Shift key in Illustrator on the desktop. Right, so have a bit of a go, get some text in there, and while you do that, I'm going to color up my text in different shapes. If you have, of course, done as I've done with the P, outlined it or create outlines, you can still go in and you can just double click and select the letters individually and then color them up as you need as well. As you can see, I've got a bit of fun going on in my colors here, and I'm just going to take these 2 and I'm going to move them around. You can see they are grouped together. So the giraffe needs to be flipped around. The monkey probably needs to be done as well. So let's select them both. We'll go over here to the alignment tool and flip them. And then I can move them into the right position. Let's try that again. And we'll move just the monkey by itself and the giraffe as well. And I'll just increase the size of the giraffe a little bit in there. We'll move the monkey out and maybe scale that down just a little bit. And of course it needs to go on top of the giraffe as well. So I'm going to have to go to my layers and then just move the entire monkey layer up above the giraffe layer in there. And I think that's pretty much done. You can just keep fiddling with this as much as you like. Try color variations as well while you're doing it. But we'll stop right over there. Don't forget to check out my other Adobe courses. I also have courses in Affinity, Canva, and Procreate.